Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Shivan and I'm a third year medical student studying at King's College London. And in today's video, I'm gonna tell you what some common mistakes are when applying to medical school, specifically in the UK, but maybe otherwise or in general as well. I'm telling you about these mistakes because they may seem small or may seem not that big of a deal or anything like that, but they can be quite consequential and they can definitely impact whether or not you get into medical school. So definitely hear me out and try and avoid these mistakes if you're planning to apply to medical school soon or you're thinking of applying or whatever. But before we get further into the video, I want you to go check out my YouTube channel because I make videos about medical school and university. So I have vlogs, day in the life videos, videos about medical school and videos about how to get into medical school as well. So do check it out, and if you think it's something you'd be into, then smash that subscribe button. Right, so without any further ado, let's get right into this video. So the first and quite a big mistake when applying to medical school is not choosing the right medical schools to apply to. Many people do this because they choose their medical schools based on prestige or what the most popular universities are to apply to at the time, and they just look at the name and don't consider anything further than that. No, that's not how it's done. Choose which medical schools are tailored to you, both in terms of your eligibility as well as whatever criteria you may have for a place to study. So when we're talking about eligibility, you'd want to see which medical schools favor your strengths, whether that be the UCAT, or BMAT, or your A levels, or your GCSEs. The A levels are your 12th grade results and GCSEs are your 10th grade results if you're outside the UK, and basically take that into consideration because definitely depending on your statistics, you may seem very desirable to one medical school but not so desirable to another medical school. For example, if you have a really good UCAT, you definitely want to consider Bristol regardless of whether or not your other stats are amazing, as long as they meet the minimum criteria. And then if, for example, if you're applying to UCL, you'd want to make sure that your GCSEs or IGCSEs are pretty strong because those matter quite a bit over there. Also want to consider where you'd enjoy studying because that matters. So what course structure you'd prefer and that you feel you'd learn better with, whether you want to go to a really big medical school with a lot of students or a smaller medical school with a smaller cohort, whether you'd want to be in a big city or a small city, whether you'd want to be in a university that's a city university or one that's a campus university. So consider all of this and make your decision based on these things and not based on factors that are not important, and definitely don't make this choice randomly. Another big mistake is not going through the non-academic eligibility criteria carefully, because there are little things in here that are going to make you completely ineligible to certain universities and medical schools. One big thing is age criteria, especially if you're an international student, because I know quite a few international students like me might be 17 when they're starting their course. But there are many medical schools that do not accept you if you're not 18 by the time the course starts, such as Imperial or UCL or Barts, which is Queen Mary's. Definitely check that out. And then there are other things like the curriculum you studied if you didn't study in the UK, and lots of little things like that. Go through it carefully, read through everything, and just make sure there are no issues for you over there before you choose a medical school to apply to. Another mistake is having the wrong approach to your personal statement and your interviews as well. These are two places where your non-academic things come into play. So your work experience, your volunteering, your extracurriculars, but they're not a place where you want to list things off. So you don't want to be like, I've done this, I've done this, I've done that, I've done that, I've done all these different things. None of that holds any value unless you talk about it in context of what you're going to be doing in the future. So you want to talk about things you've learned, things that you've gained from these experiences, and what skills and qualities you've either developed or demonstrated, and basically it all needs to be surrounding that. And also why you think these skills, qualities, these things that you've learned are applicable to you as a medical student, a future medical student, and a future doctor. So just remember, in these two places you want to be doing everything in context of medicine, becoming a medical student, and eventually becoming a doctor. The fourth big mistake is not spacing things out. So your final year in school or your final year before applying to medical school is going to be really hectic because there are many small components to your medical school application and all of them matter in some way or the other. So you want to be doing them all to a high standard, and you definitely want to be getting a good entrance exam score, good grades in school. You'd want to be getting good experience for medical school. You'd want to write a good personal statement, and you'd want to perform well in your interviews. If all these things are clumped up together and are pretty much being done at the same time or very closely, then it's going to be much more difficult to perform well in each of them. So looking at whatever is in your power, try and sort of space it out in a way that's convenient for you, and that'll leave enough time to pay attention to each thing and to Can you close this door? You'd basically want to space things out in a way that you can give sufficient attention to each thing, and that you definitely don't compromise on the quality of your experiences or your scores anywhere. The next sort of point or the next mistake to avoid is kind of related to the previous one, and that's leaving enough time or spending enough time to prepare for your entrance exam and for your interviews. These are arguably the two biggest and two newest components to your application. Things you not have too much experience with, but things that would matter a lot. So when it comes to the UCAT, you definitely want to leave a lot of time to prepare for that, because many people make the mistake of spending only about a couple of weeks preparing for the UCAT, and they think that, you know, I'll just grind for 2 weeks and I'll be able to get a good score. This might happen, but it's very unlikely, because the UCAT is a type of test that requires you to acquire skills. So for these skills to be acquired, you need to be practicing them for a long period of time. It's also a very time-constrained test, and to get that speed, you need practice. Similarly with interviews, medical school interviews, they're not like just a normal conversation between you and the interviewer. They require a lot of reflection on your experiences, reflection on what you've done so far, on yourself, your skills, your qualities, your capabilities, even your weaknesses and things like that. And then also you'd want to practice certain skills and tasks like communication and some other sort of practical aspects of the interview. I'd say start preparing for your interviews as soon as you apply to medical school, even if you've not heard back as yet, because you may hear back and then have just a week left for the interview. So there's no harm of preparing early on, and it'll definitely come into use if you get an interview or multiple interviews. And the last big mistake that I need to mention is not taking the right guidance. So like I said earlier, applying to medical school in the UK is quite a complex process. It has a lot of components to it, and if you try and navigate this sort of journey or this process yourself, there'll be small things that you'll miss out and small things that you won't know. Things that someone who's been through the application process or someone who has experience with the application process can tell you, and they'll definitely be able to guide you a lot better than you'll be able to guide yourself, and they'll just be able to provide a perspective that you won't have, or someone else who doesn't have that exposure won't have, and that'll just make the entire process so much easier for you, and it'll definitely level up your application. So this can be a senior student in your school who's gone to study medicine. It can be a family member who studied medicine in the UK. It can be admissions counselor or a teacher in your school who helps with medical school applications, any of that. Or you can just watch my videos, because that's my entire aim of making these YouTube videos. I want to make the application process much easier, much smoother for you, so that you don't have to waste that time doing the wrong things, and you don't have to go through any troubles, and you can, just put in the work and do the right things and achieve what you want to. So yeah, that is all the mistakes that I could think of that one might make when applying to medical school. I'm sure there are a few more, but these are some important ones for you to consider and to definitely try and avoid. So if you're applying to medical school this year or next year or anytime soon, then I definitely hope you found this video useful and enjoyable, and if you did, drop a like down below and consider subscribing to my channel. And if you have any questions, anything to say to me, anything like that, do leave a comment down in the comment section below, or DM me on Instagram or anything like that. I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. I'm sorry I've not been great with that recently, but I'll definitely try and do that. And also, do share the video with your friends or people you know may be applying to medical school. And with that, I will see you in the next one.